Today, we go somewhere that you might not expect us to be going. We're on Flop Fantasy. We're looking at the rankings. That's great and all. But what tool do most people use to do their rankings, to do their trading, to calculate, am I winning this trade? We're going to KeepTradeCut. We're going to head over to the KeepTradeCut website, and I'm going to break this down because KeepTradeCut, the word on the street is this tool stinks. No, don't use this. Don't trust this. And that's great and all. You shouldn't trust this. You should definitely ask in the comments, join the Patreon, join the Discord. We'll have the best trade advice for you there. But here's how to actually make KeepTradeCut your friend. This tool can actually be used strategically. This tool and this website is actually very useful, very good. And sure, it has its shortcomings. We'll talk about everything in this video. Here's everything you need to know about KeepTradeCut and kind of what the best tools are out there and available for you for your Dynasty offseason to go conquer your league mates. Let's take a look. So first things first on KeepTradeCut, you load up, you get into the Dynasty rankings. Now, basis of this video, number one, right? Dynasty boils down to player values. So if we look at the rankings, each player on KeepTradeCut is assigned a value. Drake May, 99.95. It goes up to 10K, right? Now, on your actual Dynasty roster, you should be aware of what each player's value is. Do not get emotionally attached to a player. We're going to start this video off with Drake May. Just because Drake May had the best season of all time. Let's take a look at what Drake May just did in 2025. 22 points per game. Amazing. His rushing was actually not even great. Like if you look at 2024, he honestly was a little bit worse in terms of rushing. The touchdown rate was a little bit higher, but really he's taken a major leap forward in passing the football. So Drake May, he's now on KeepTradeCut. He's now the number one. He's the number one player you can own right now in terms of value in Dynasty. In one season, right? So do not let the emotional attachment get the best of you. Dynasty is one. Leagues are won, teams are assembled as juggernauts by capitalizing on value and getting more value than what, Just because Drake May is number one right now, he could have a Jaden Daniels downfall where he could slide 20 spots in the rankings with a fall back to earth next season. So that's where you got to capitalize on tools like the trade calculator. If you have Drake May, let's say, what should I give Drake May up for and I would be happy receiving? Let's start things off with a nice little Bijan Robinson, right? Bijan Robinson, I think he's a little underrated. You can see right off the bat, this is actually a fair trade, 1-for-1 on KeepTradeCut. So I disagree with this. I think that Drake May is above Bijan Robinson in terms of value, especially in a Superflex league. So this is one of the shortcomings of KeepTradeCut, where, if I was trading Drake May, I would want Bijan Robinson and something. But you can see right here, like if I wanted Bijan in a first-round pick, it's going to say that this side wins the trade by a mile. If I was the Bijan team, I don't really necessarily if I would do that. But this is kind of the downfall of KeepTradeCut in terms of the calculator. But the rankings are a good tool to get a gauge of when you go to approach your league mate, what are they valuing their players at? So we talked about Drake May. Let's talk about some of these other guys right here. Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is number 12 on KeepTradeCut. He just had a heck of a season. If I was dumb, Jaden Daniels, he played 7 games this season, and his point per game average was bad in those games. He had a major, he was obviously banged up, but he had a major reduction in his rushing efficiency from 2024 to 2025, which resulted in only a 16 point per game average. He actually hasn't dropped much in the rankings. Another thing you should be aware of as a Dynasty player is there's something called value insulation. Jaden Daniels did so good as a rookie that his value was insulated to the point where such a bad season in 2025 where he barely played, his value didn't decline that much. But it did eat away at the value insulation. One more bad year from Daniels, and you could see that value insulation get, just completely disappear. So I like using KeepTradeCut to identify the value of players that my own brain, am thinking of targeting or thinking of trading away. So trading away is the first point, right? So if I have Drake May, if I have Jaden Daniels, and I think that, listen, and it's a smart move. I think these guys' value is higher right now than it will be in 1 year. So I head over to the trade calculator and I start messing around. The trade calculator gets pretty tricky on KeepTradeCut. This isn't necessarily the best tool. It's a good guide, but I would actually rather, if I was looking at Jaden Daniels, all right, he's ranked 12 on this site. Who is around Jaden Daniels? Which is kind of where I would start looking, okay, Jaden Daniels I think is too high. Who do I think is too low around Jaden Daniels, right? So like if I can go from Jaden Daniels and I can get myself a Caleb Williams and then something on top of it, I don't mind that pivot right now either, because I think Caleb Williams, 1 or 2 more good seasons under Ben Johnson, I think Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels could potentially switch spots in these rankings. And there's a lot of good pieces down there in Chicago's offense, especially the coaching staff. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention here is the Dynasty rankings tool is a very good thing. There's some other guys that I think, like Justin Herbert. If I had Herbert on my Dynasty team and I see him right here at number 20, I'm probably going in here and I'm trying to justify to my league mates, I'll whip up something cool in this trade calculator where, Herbert's value I think is very, very high on here on KeepTradeCut. I'd rather have Caleb Williams, who has the rushing upside, where Justin Herbert, he had some, surprisingly, I was actually surprised to see this. Herbert did rush the football a little bit this year in 2025, but, it's a fluke. It's a fluke in my eyes. Don't expect that. The previous 5 years of his career, he was around 17 yards per game, 31 yards per game. No. So Justin Herbert, he hasn't ever, I don't think we're going to see him come back to this insane passing touchdown rate of his first 2 seasons in the league. So Herbert's another guy I'll be looking to, potentially send some offers here from KeepTradeCut's rankings. So we already, we analyzed that. You can use the rankings for guys that you want to sell. But what about guys you want to target? I have a couple guys right here where these guys, listen, you only have like 20 players on your roster, right? What about guys you want to get? So I go through these rankings and I'm looking around at names. All right, yeah, like Purdy, he's a little bit overvalued. Lawrence, a little bit overvalued. Abuka, Wilson, I'd be looking to sell those guys based on these prices. And then you find guys like Fannin, where, before KeepTradeCut updated, like a week or 2 ago, Fannin I was seeing somewhere in the 70s. So like Harold Fannin, I actually think this is a good buy price for Harold Fannin. And let me tell you why. So that's kind of the thing I use KeepTradeCut for, is I try finding almost gaps in people's value understanding of players. Because if KeepTradeCut had Fannin at 70, your league mate might still think Fannin is the 70th overall type of player. Like if I come over to Flock Fantasy, they got Fannin over here. I don't know if this is a tight end premium ranking specifically. It probably isn't. But Harold Fannin, they have him over here in the 70s. And the thing I love about Fannin, first off, he's shown that he is kind of not necessarily dependent on the quarterback. He played good with Flacco. He played solid with Gabriel. He played good with Shador. So I don't care what the Browns' offensive situation is going to be. I think Njoku might be out in Cleveland as well, and he showed that he can produce with Njoku as well as an out-wide type receiver type of player. But I love his age. He is 21 and a half years old. He's a great rebuilding target. This guy has another 10 years in the league, and he was great in college. Good in the league as a rookie, splendid, very good. So I think Fannin is a good guy that I would identify right here as being undervalued. And really, I love going deeper and deeper in these rankings, because then you start seeing what your first and second round picks are worth as well in value. If you are a rebuilding team and you're bragging about having all of these draft picks accumulated, that's not a good thing. There's a point where you don't want to have too many picks going into the draft, and you want to just try sending offers and getting actual players that guys that are safe, guys that you already know are going to be producing. Like sending a first-round pick, a mid to late first for Brian Thomas Jr., that is one of my favorite moves to be making right now in Dynasty. BTJ, from my understanding, this is highly underranked. I still value BTJ as a top 35 Dynasty asset. So I don't think people, I think people are overreacting to his season, where I'm kind of attributing it to being banged up a little bit, and I'm not putting too much stock in Jacoby Myers' rise. So right off the bat, if I'm seeing KeepTradeCut's rankings, if I can send a mid-first for BTJ, that's something that I would highly consider pulling off. So that's kind of the basis of how I use KeepTradeCut as a tool. Now, Flock Fantasy, Mason Dodd's nice enough to let us use this site. They also have, I think you have to pay, but then you can sync your leagues in here, and you can actually do some trade calculations here, and it's based on expert rankings. So this is where it's a little bit better of a tool. So if I was just to come in here and I just throw in like let's see if I can throw in a 2026 let's just throw in 2026 pick 8 for Fannin, and it'll evaluate. It's a pretty good calculator. Still has its ups and downs, but you can see whether or not it's a fair trade. You're stealing them is what it comes out to. So this is a great tool as well. My favorite tool is the comments section down below. Make sure you guys are commenting your trades down there. We'll even have videos. We'll have videos breaking down whether your real life trade scenarios are good or bad. And then the Patreon, of course, go join that. Appreciate it. We'll see you on video, man. Keep Trade Cut. It's undervalued. It's a good guideline tool. Just don't, do the scamming. If you're doing an offer and you plug into KeepTradeCut and in your head you're winning, but KeepTradeCut says you're losing or it's fair, send that as something to bolster your evidence to your league mate. Oh, look, it's fair or you're winning. If it says you're losing, just don't send it. And so you have to be strategic here and use this as a guide. Hope this helped you boys out. I'll see you in the next one.